Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us today. The southern border is wide open for business. The truth of the matter is it's been wide open for business the last 3.5 years since the Biden regime took over. It's open to illegal migrants to come in. It's open to human smugglers to bring their victims in. And perhaps most importantly, it's open to drug smugglers. Those drug smugglers who are responsible for the importation of hundreds of thousands of pounds of deadly fentanyl each year, and of course the hundreds of thousands of deaths that come with it. Just alone in the fiscal year for 2023, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized 240,000 pounds of drugs at the southwest land border, which included an estimated over 1 billion doses of fentanyl alone. Today, of course, fentanyl is the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. Also in the calendar year for 2023, the DEA seized more than 77 million fentanyl pills and nearly 12,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. This is the most fentanyl ever seized by the DEA in a single year. It amounts to more than 386 million deadly doses of fentanyl, enough to kill every single American in this country. According to the DEA, the fentanyl we see today is deadlier than ever. DEA laboratory testing in 2023 showed that 7 out of 10 pills tested contained a potentially deadly dose of fentanyl. This is an increase from 4 out of 10 pills in 2021 and 6 out of 10 pills in 2022. A potentially deadly dose is considered just 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which is approximately the amount that fits on the tip of a pencil. This, of course, all brought to you by the Biden-Harris regime. The drug problem is just a small part of a much bigger problem at the border. We learned this week from a former chief CBP agent testifying on Capitol Hill that this regime has allowed in hundreds of known terrorists. That's right, has allowed them in and knew they were terrorists. To take all this up, I want to bring in our guest today. He's a man who's been a relentless advocate for border security. He's Victor Avila. Victor is a retired supervisory special agent with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He's also the survivor of a 2011 ambush by the cartel hitman. Victor, thanks so much for joining us today here on the Great America Show. I want to start with today and play this clip for the audience. Retired Chief Border Patrol Agent Aaron Heitke on Capitol Hill this week, letting us know how bad the border really is. Now, we all know it's bad, and it's gotten worse over the last 3.5 years under the Biden-Harris administration, or whoever's running the Biden administration. But I don't think we all realized how bad it really is as it regards to terrorists coming across the border with everything that's going on right now. I want to play this clip for the audience. This was, as I said, retired Border Patrol Agent Aaron Heitke on Capitol Hill this week.
In San Diego, we had an exponential increase in significant interest aliens. These are aliens with significant ties to terrorism. Prior to this administration, the San Diego sector averaged 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. Once word was out the border was far easier to cross, San Diego went to over 100 SIAs in 2022, well over that in 2023, and even more than that registered this year. These are only the ones we caught. At the time, I was told I could not release any information on this increase in SIAs or mention any of the arrests. The administration was trying to convince the public there was no threat at the border. Fentanyl is another issue. The San Diego area sees between 80 and 90% of the methamphetamine and fentanyl seizures annually for our entire country. With little enforcement at the border, these drugs were coming through en masse. During my last year in San Diego, the price for a single pill of fentanyl, for example, went from $10 to 25 cents. To make matters worse, during 2022 and 23, I had to shut down San Diego traffic checkpoints, which are critical for drug interdiction, because the resources had been diverted to the process and release mission. The large numbers also had and still have a negative impact on the San Diego community. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. This was the administration's way to try and quiet the border-wide crisis.
First, if you will, for the audience, Victor, let everyone know the SIAs he was referring to. What are those? Because I think that's perhaps the most important thing he said.
Absolutely, and I investigated these groups. SIAs are special interest aliens. These are, this is the term the Department of Homeland Security refers to people that come from special interest countries that have ties to possible terroristic ties to that country. We're talking about countries like Somalia, Yemen, Bangladesh, and many others. And so these are the ones that he's referring to. But keep in mind here the outstanding number, and I want to tell you why the number happened and why the increase was dramatic. Is the lack of enforcement. And if you didn't get that, I know it might be obvious, but when I worked in Mexico, I was working on these smuggling investigations of Afghans and other SIAs, but we were enforcing it. We were stopping them from coming to the border while they were in Mexico, because a lot of these groups think and feel that if they hit Mexican soil, they're as good as being in the U.S.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the Biden administration, I mean, doing all they could to let as many people in as possible. We saw just this last week, 100,000 people in Arizona registered to vote with showing no ID. They said it was an accident, but now it's like, one of those situations where you drop your vote in a box and it gets mixed up and every ballot looks the same. So how do you know which one was one of those 100,000? It's all by design, that none of this is an accident. The Biden administration touting this week new numbers out, saying the border crossings are falling, saying that Donald Trump is just hyping this up to more than nothing. The numbers may be down for this month, but it's because it's the summer months and people coming from Mexico crossing through the desert. Some of them don't make it through. Can you explain that for the audience, if you will?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because yes, it's the summer months, but there's a deal that the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration made with the government of Mexico back in December to make a deal to favor the Mexican elections that they had this past June. Their new communist president is going to hit office on November 1st, and also to help the Biden and Harris regime to continue. So this, like you said, is by design to reduce those numbers. But the reduction in numbers was in between the ports of entry. Remember Eagle Pass, Texas, and Arizona. Right. That's where they stopped coming. Where they didn't stop coming is through the air, flying in hundreds of thousands legally under the Biden administration. They consider them legally, although I tell you right now, it's 100% unconstitutional and illegal. What they're doing is issuing these paroles and the CBP-1 app, flying people directly from not just Mexico, but from their home country into ours, not counting them as gotaways or as interdiction. And so those numbers are skewed.
What do you estimate, your best estimate under this administration, numbers wise, crossing the border, illegal crossers? First of all, I want to get that number. What do you estimate illegal crossers? And then I want to get the number of gotaways, not the ones they estimate as gotaways, the real number of gotaways.
I think that the total number of illegals total under this administration is between 15 and 18 million that have come in. And I think that's a conservative and very, with all my sources and my contacts, we talk about this a lot because of the different categories that you just mentioned. So we have the ones that they came in and gave themselves up. They call them give ups. We count those. Then they have the known gotaways that we saw on a camera, detected on a zone or something, but weren't able to go get them because we were processing the Border Patrol. So we count those. And then those are, by the way, are about 2 million under the official number. So then you have the unknown gotaways, and these are completely undetected, 100% smuggled individuals into this country that right now has shot in the last 6 to 8 months, has shot through the roof the smuggling that is occurring in our borders. And I'll tell you why. One of the indicators is the number of stash houses that have been discovered. For example, in El Paso, Texas, 270 plus stash houses, stash locations of where they house these individuals temporarily while they get distributed throughout the country. The same thing in Laredo, Texas. So the smuggling has increased dramatically because they noticed that there was some kind of enforcement on the Mexican side. So they figured the cartels don't care. They're going to move you anyway. You pay, and they don't care if you come in the back of a pickup truck or tractor trailer or turn yourself in. They're going to get you in one way or the other.
So you've got the gotaways, you've got the people who have come in here that we know about. It's 15 to 18 plus. We're at over 20 million there. Now, what do you put your estimate out as people who were actually flown here on private charter jets by the Biden administration?
That's over millions there. So we have counts just of the Central American region and South American region. Forget the rest of the world. Remember when we started talking a lot about the Haitians and what's going on, these Haitians have been flown into the country from Haiti hundreds of thousands of them in the last couple of years. So this is nothing new to me. We've been trying to say this for a long time. Remember, I forget the year 2021, the Haitian invasion down in Del Rio, Texas. And I was down there where we saw 17,000 such Haitians underneath that bridge. Most of those Haitians did not come from Haiti directly under that. They had been in Mexico. They had been in in Central America and South America for many years. Most of them speak fluent Spanish, as a matter of fact. And so now you have this issue, the same thing. The problem now, and the reason why I'm kind of glad that it's coming out, is that they're showing up to these communities that are 4,000 or 5,000 in population, and you drop 2,000 Haitians in there. Well, now it's very noticeable, and it's very hard to be absorbed into that community. And guess what? Something's got to give. I talk to these police officers and sheriffs around the country. They don't have more resources. They don't have more police officers. They don't have more hospitals or more schools. So they're forced to absorb them, and something's got to give. And the problem that's giving right now is public safety.
Yeah, and I spoke to somebody today, earlier today, about it. The issue we're going to have now, as we have, the birth rates in decline across Americans to now 50 since 1950 to an all-time low. These migrants are going to start coming into the country. They're going to start having children, which are known as anchor babies, which are under current law citizens of the United States. I'm not saying I agree with that, because I definitely don't. But that's going to be a big problem now. And in 5-10 years, we're never going to see a Republican elected again. When I started seeing it was a problem, probably the past 2 years, I'm in New York here, and you used to go to Home Depot. And if you went to Home Depot in the morning around here, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd see maybe 15 or 20 Mexicans lined up outside looking for work, where, people who do construction would come pick them up. And I only know this because I've, have friends who have picked them up before. That's how I know they're Mexican. You pick them up, and they $150, $200 for the day, and you take them home. In the past, I want to say year and a half or so, you go there and you see these Haitian migrants. You don't see the Mexican migrants there anymore. It's predominantly Haitian. People from Senegal, I've spoken to them before. And like I said, it was maybe 15 or 20 folks from Mexico before. It's now 30 to 40 of these Haitian and people from Senegal that are out there looking for work. And I said to myself, before Lou passed, I'd sent him a picture. And I'm like, look at this. Look what the hell's going on. And Lou was like, holy hell, this is what's happening. Victor, I want to take a quick break here. When we return, I want to talk about another big issue at the border, and it's drugs. It's killing hundreds of thousands of Americans each and every year. And they're coming across, they're pouring across, and nobody's stopping them. We're going to take a quick break here. We're talking with Victor Avila. We're coming right back. Folks, are you tired of supporting big box stores and multi-billion-dollar corporations that don't support us? Corporations that donate tens of millions of dollars a year to push woke Marxist Dem ideologies? Whether it be Amazon and Jeff Bezos, or Target with their transgender clothing for kids, or even Bud Light going totally woke, enough is enough. Why should we, as lovers of this country, continue to support these corporations? The answer is we shouldn't. I constantly get people who reach out to me and ask, John, what can we do to save this country? Where can we shop and support American-made brands and conservative ideologies? Well, we now have a solution to stop shopping at these woke companies and stop funding the deep state, and a solution to buy American. This is something we can all do right now to kick the deep state in the teeth and stop funding our enemies and vote with our dollars. We have a parallel economy for around 450 household products. Not only can you cancel woke brands like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, you can also cancel the stores that carry them. I need you all to head over to switchwithjohn.com, that's switchwithjohn.com, where you can read all about our movement. We have access to a conservative manufacturer that will replace these brands and the stores you buy them from. It isn't an additional budget item, because instead of turning right into Target or left into Walmart, you're going to shop directly online, directly with the manufacturer. Folks, this is a patriot movement that is happening right now before our eyes. Every 47 seconds, a shopper is switching to our online store, and we need you to partner with us. Join us and band together. I just canceled my Amazon Prime subscription because I've truly had enough. So what do you say? It's time to put your money where your heart is? Join us today and help save this nation. Go to switchwithjohn.com. That's switchwithjohn.com to learn how you can join thousands of other patriots and help take this nation back. switchwithjohn.com. We'll see you there. We're back. We're talking with Victor Avila. And Victor, before we went to break, I had mentioned the drug problem that's happening here in this country. The fentanyl coming from China. The largest producer of fentanyl is China. And this administration just letting it come in. Hundreds of thousands of people a year dying of overdoses. As we just sit back and watch, I mean, you go to any big city across America, New York, Philly is a really bad one. I go to Atlantic City a bunch, and you see these people, and they're not on regular drugs. They're not on marijuana or cocaine where maybe they're functioning. You see these people, and they're zombies. How do you fix this drug problem? I want to play this clip from you. President Trump was on Fox News this week, and he has a proposal on how we take care of it. I want to play it for you guys.
Be nice so we can be smart. You're never going to, I set up blue ribbon committees. Friends of mine, could I get on a committee? They didn't know the first thing about it. They don't know about El Chapo. They don't know about, these are very smart, hardened people. And, I'm setting up a blue ribbon committee with socialites from New York and California. It's ridiculous. And they don't even want to talk about it. They talk about it for 2 minutes, then they start talking about society. The only way you're going to stop this is the death penalty for drug dealers. I don't know if this country is ready for it, but if you think about it, each drug dealer on average kills 500 people on average. He or she, drug dealer, kills five. I know so many families who have lost a son or a daughter or parents even to fentanyl.
I mean, the death penalty, seems obviously like the best case scenario with what's going on right now. What do you think? How do we stop the drug epidemic in this country that's coming across the southern border?
It's going to be a multifaceted approach. I love the death penalty as a one of the part of the solution. I'm 100% behind it. In conjunction with declaring the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, therefore bringing in the DoD resources, bringing in the different jurisdictions that we don't have, even as a special agent myself. The investigations that I conducted in my career, those investigations and those techniques are so outdated now that we need to move forward and think beyond, and things like the death penalty, declaring them as terrorists, stripping them of all their assets and properties that they have here in the U.S. because the cartels are here and they live here in our communities, and they have now full time more than ever before. We're talking about a Sinaloa cartel, the cartel Heitke New Generation. These people are responsible. By the way, the cartels, as powerful and as organized as they are, they're actually the soldiers to China and to Venezuela, Cuba, and the others that are bringing in the poison that are killing our youth. And so I have also met with a lot of these family members that have lost their loved ones to a fentanyl counterfeit pill, or have the angel moms and angel fathers that have lost their loved one to the hands of an illegal alien in a crime. So those are the ones that outrage me, right? Because for me, it's about protecting the public, and the Biden-Harris regime continues to allow this to happen, even though they see the crime happening in their own country. We have enough crime, right? We have enough to deal with on our own, and this revolving door and the failure to prosecute people at the state and federal level and all that other craziness that's going on. Why in the world are we putting up with people from over 150 countries coming in and hurting us? Yeah. This is, to me, is one easily done, but it is two things. We got the will, which I know President Trump does, and you need the right personnel in these type of agencies, Department of Homeland Security and others, to effectively put it forth.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point that our criminal justice system is going harder on Americans for crimes that are far less as bad as what these illegals are doing in this country. If you look at some of these gangs, you brought up a really good point about designating them foreign terrorist organizations, just as Governor Greg Abbott did to Tren del Agua down in Texas. You'd mentioned the military, right? So when you designate them a foreign terrorist organization, you're allowed now to bring in the military. And everyone gets nervous when you say military, you can't do this. These are civilians. Well, I've got news for people. More people have died from drug overdoses and fentanyl in this country than U.S. soldiers have died over in the Middle East fighting pointless wars since 2001. So the idea of bringing in the military, scaring people, is absolutely ridiculous. These people are criminals, and in some cases, they're worse than some of the terrorists overseas with what they're doing in this country. Your thoughts?
They're vicious killers is what they are. They have no regard for human life. They're there for the power and the money. And let me tell you right now, as you and I are speaking, there's a war broken out in Mexico between the Sinaloa cartel that is going to have an impact on us, on the fentanyl, on the methamphetamine. And by the way, cocaine and the other drugs making a huge comeback into this country, because now those drugs are being laced with fentanyl, and the zombie drug that you mentioned, the xylazine, killing us and just taking over these communities. But the designation, and I think people do get scared when they think military, it doesn't mean that as soon as you designate them, we're sending in black, helicopters into Mexico. No, it means that the resource is now there, and it's right there on the table, ready to be used when we want to use it. So we get to go through whatever steps we want to, but then the option is there to do it, kind of Colombia style that we did in the late 80s. But we have to start looking for our interests, because you know who puts Mexico first? Mexico does. Right. And Venezuela puts Venezuela first. So I'm okay with putting the United States first and protecting our citizens.
Well, you didn't say one thing there, Victor. I think America puts Mexico first as well with what we're looking at. Okay. Back in the Trump administration, Mark Esper, who worked for President Trump, a total dunce, came out in his book and said, President Trump spoke about sending missiles into blowing up the drug factories, and like it was a bad thing. Now that we think about it, is it really a bad idea? As bad idea as Mark Esper said it was, to blow these damn guys up?
There's 100 super labs in Mexico that are producing these pill mills that we call, and we have the precision and the military technology to absolutely go out there and take these. Most of these labs are out in the hills and the forest and these outskirts of most of these towns, so we could easily attack them there. But where you hurt the cartels is with the money. And there's the money laundering aspect of it that a lot of times is not spoken. By the way, China, they're making billions of dollars with the cartels. And the lack of talking about the money is the real reason, because China is not only infiltrating military-age Chinese nationals, they're sending balloons where they have police stations in the country. So this is a huge national security issue. They grabbed two national Chinese men in East Texas a few weeks ago with bars of gold driving back, somewhere through Dallas.
Are you sure that wasn't Senator Bob Menendez?
It wasn't, but it's an indicator, right? That's the reason why. It's the money and the power, and the cartels are the ones that will chop your head off to do it. And so we have to deal with them adequately. We have to, like they say in law enforcement, we have to go do one up on them. And we've always been, right now, we're behind so much on the development of these cartels because they're highly sophisticated. If you think these are gangs, you have to first recognize how sophisticated they are, where they have their personnel in the U.S. They're infiltrated in our court systems. They're infiltrated with attorneys, with everywhere that you would think in different communities. They have no idea that they're working with these cartels to sell these drugs. And by the way, the human trafficking and the human smuggling. When I worked at cartels, they didn't deal with the humans. But then they saw how much money the humans are paying, so they took over that industry as well. And so now they're making billions on that end of the sex trade and the forced labor trade as well.
Yeah, I mean, the human trafficking aspect of it, I spoke to a gentleman from Mexico who came across the border illegally, and he told me he paid, I think, $18,000 back a few months ago, whereas like 10 years ago, it was only $5,000 because these cartels have now exploited just how vulnerable these people are. And, people don't realize the cartel owns the southern border. You ain't getting past that damn border without paying one of those people. And if you think you are, you're going to have no head once you get to the other side. As for the drug cartels, they're essentially little governments inside Mexico. Like you had said, they're very powerful. Why? I mean, is the Mexico government in on it? Is the Mexico government in on getting kickbacks from these people? Why, haven't they done anything to shut them down? You go to places like Tulum, which is heavily run by the cartels, and it's apparently one of the safest places in Mexico, and it's probably because the cartels need the tourism, to go in there and pay, and it's why people don't overdose on drugs there, and presumably everyone there is doing drugs if you're, they're partying, but no, you don't hear of anybody overdosing in Tulum, or very rarely dying in Tulum, or someone died in Tulum maybe a year ago, and I think the cartels killed the guy who killed the American because they need that for tourism. But why is the Mexican government not doing anything to stop these people.
Especially the current outgoing president, AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. This guy is he's something else. You know the old saying when he came in 6 years ago that he was going to give him hugs and not bullets. Well, he actually stood by his words, and the cartels are now running a parallel government, meaning that they have the power and influence no longer just at the border, because they've been at the border for many years. I've been there in my career for 20 years, but now they have infiltrated the interior of Mexico into Michoacan, Zacatecas, all these states that you never would have thought. Well, now they have so much heavy influence into the government, into the political system. The media, by the way, is a big factor that they use. And so they are running a parallel government. Now, it's going to be very interesting with the new president, the female president, Claudia Sheinbaum, that's basically a communist. I'm really interested to see how Mexico is going to take this direction, because the cartels are going to just possibly take this opportunity to really take over. And the AMLO, by the way, just fired all the federal judges, and now they're going to be elected. Well, who do you think they're going to elect? It's so corrupt. And AMLO comes across as a socialist, want to care for the poor people. But really what he did is promote the cartels, made them stronger, made them more powerful and more richer, that now we are where we're at.
I'm against any military intervention or any American intervention in any country that, like I said, Iraq, Afghanistan, you can go down the list in the Middle East of all the damn countries that we've ruined over there. But with Mexico, it's actually hitting us here at home, with these people coming across the border, infiltrating our communities, the gangs infiltrating our communities across big cities, Aurora, Colorado. I want to take a quick break here. When we return, I want to take that up and talk about why the Democrats, there was a brief period in this election cycle where the Democrats were all for border security and, they wanted to protect the border because obviously, President Trump has exploited to what's really going on. But now they're sort of pulling back a little bit. I want to take that up on the other side of this quick break. We're talking with Victor Avila. We're coming right back.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
We're back with Victor Avila. And Victor, I want to talk about this week a bill on the House floor from Congresswoman Nancy Mace. What the bill did was it made any illegal immigrant who was here illegally, who committed any sorts of sex crimes or any sort of domestic violence or sex-related charges, immediately deportable and inadmissible for any sort of green card or permanent immigration status here in America. 158 Democrats voted against that bill. What does that tell us about just where the Democrats are in this, we'll call it a fight?
It's lawlessness. It's a disregard for the U.S. Constitution. It's a disregard in the bigger picture for our sovereignty, really, is what you're looking at here. They're destroying our sovereignty and our protection for it. I get this question asked a lot, is why? Why do they do this? Why are they purposely doing this? I think they're fundamentally wanting to change the fabric of this country, and they're doing it one neighborhood at a time. We're seeing El Tren de Aragua take over apartment complexes in El Paso, in Dallas, in Chicago, in Denver, and it's going to happen again. They're being allowed to do it. And when the people from all over the world are seeing that they're being allowed with no consequences, they're going to continue to do it. But here's where this is where it just makes me very angry, is that the American people, we don't want to put up with, we don't want to put up with this. We're sick and tired of the crime and the violence and everything else associated with illegal immigration. We're tired of the economic impact associated with illegal immigration in our schools, in our hospitals, in our criminal justice system. For crying out loud, it's affecting everyone everywhere now. And they will still do it because they prefer those people over us. Yeah. And when I say those people, I know not everybody that comes across the border is a bad person. But if you go low, and I'm going very low on this percentage of 5% being bad people of all of them that have come in, well, that's already in the millions of people that are here to cause us harm. And the big difference now from the ones that I used to investigate as an agent is that these people are coming with a very different mentality, very different culture. They're not assimilating to the United States. They don't want to be Americans. They're here with a purpose to destroy us.
You had said it's a small number, and I take issue with that because all it takes, Victor, is one. It takes one.
One is too many.
One is too many, right? It takes one damn person to do a terrorist attack. It takes one damn person to ruin somebody's family with a dirty fentanyl pill or tainted cocaine or tainted marijuana or whatever drug that person's doing. If anyone, you'd mentioned also the media. Anyone watching the debate the other night saw it was 3 against 1, 2 moderators, and Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had brought up that situation you had mentioned in Aurora, Colorado, the Tren de Agua. And I think David Mura stepped in and said, oh, that's unconfirmed. Well, I have confirmed news for David Mura today. Colorado police have now named 10 Venezuelan gang members in connection with that apartment incident in Aurora, Colorado. So the media, is more than complicit, I think, than maybe even the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden administration. What do you think?
They're avoiding to go in there, and the media will not go in there and investigate and send their investigative journalists in there because guess what they're going to find out? The truth. What you and I are talking about, that our lying eyes are telling us something else. And so therefore the media is so corrupt in lying to us and really gaslighting us and making us think that we're crazy because of the crazy things that the Haitians are doing and the Tren de Aragua people taking. I'm telling you, I saw them here in Dallas, Texas, doing it here a year and a half ago. I was screaming about it. How is it that Dallas PD couldn't even go in there and get them out? They needed to hire a private security group to do it, and they did. These are the extremes that we're going to, that the local jurisdictions are not able to handle it. Nope. But I'll say this about President Trump. I want him to focus a lot on that. I want him to say it over and over about the deaths and the fentanyl, but I also want him to focus on the education that we need to bring to our children in the United States. I want to see billboards. I want to see social media. I want my son and my daughter to get a pop-up saying that if you take a pill, you're going to die. I have a 20-year-old in college, and let me tell you, I told him, please, his name's Victor. Victor, don't you dare take a pill. I'm so terrified of that. And he says, Dad, I'm not going to take it. You don't have to worry about it. But you know what he tells me? The pills are flowing on campus. They're all over. They're readily available. It's easier to take and buy a counterfeit pill than it is to buy alcohol. And so, and you're talking about Adderall, Xanax, whatever you want to call it, and that's all counterfeit. 7 out of 10 of these pills are deadly fentanyl laced, according to the DEA. And this is the world that we're living in right now. This is the type of conversations that I want people to have with their kids. I want social media education. I want it in the schools at a young age. This is where we start combating it, because if we don't get that word out and the awareness, we're going to be suffering more deaths.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just horrible, because the media could be reporting on this. They could be scaring the hell out of these kids, saying, this is what can happen. This is what's going to happen. We had the DARE movement years ago, which was a massive push. And I think it helped, push kids away from drugs. But now it's just like, they're so readily available. They're very cheap to get. That chief border patrol agent on Capitol Hill said, a pill used to cost, I think, $25. It's now 50 cents a pill, because there's just such an abundance of them on the street. I want to turn to something else. The CBP One app that the Democrats say is, this great app, and it lets asylum seekers come into this country. Well, we have a report, and this is only one report, but where there's one, there's usually more. Where there's smoke, there's fire. This Venezuelan migrant came through on the CBP One app, wasn't asked one damn question about seeking asylum, came right in, no questions asked. I mean, how many people is this happening to, Victor, that are just coming in here as freely as they want through we'll call it the legal way, according to the Democrats?
Yeah. It's completely illegal. And let me tell you, I have seen it firsthand, and I have never, all the times that I've been to the border and interviewed hundreds, thousands and thousands of illegals. Never one, not one time was the word asylum coming out of their mouth. It was always, I'm here to work, or I'm here because I'm leaving Guatemala and there's a lot of crime. And it's all these other excuses, but never a qualification under our own asylum criteria to come in. And now the manipulation of this administration to create this CBP1 app that, by the way, has absolutely no vetting. They get to put whatever information they want on there from their home country. And now they added the ones that are stuck in Mexico and down in Tapachula, by the way, they estimate about 125,000 of them. Now they just cleared their way for them to come in under the CBP1. That means that they walk through a port of entry through the pedestrian lane, as you said, considered legal. I'll tell you this way, President Trump comes in and these people are going to find themselves immediately without absolutely no status, because everything that's been issued to them has been issued to them illegally. Just like when I did a search warrant when I was an agent, illegally, everything that I got there was
inadmissible.
The fruit of the poisonous tree, right? Well, the same thing here. They're going to find that themselves the hard way, that this going to be they're completely without any status to be in the U.S. And I think there will be the mass deportation. There will be that other that we haven't even talked about, enforcement, right? We got to go back to enforcement. We got to go back to, you don't know how many calls I've had with friends and saying, we could have gone and done an op and taken out that apartment complex in Aurora and got it back on order. It's just that the will of the administration has the hands tied of our ICE agents and other law enforcement agencies.
So that all that we've just spoken about is obviously the southern border. But since the Biden administration has come in, I want to conclude with this, Victor. It seems we now have a problem at the northern border. There's a group of TikTokers who go on TikTok every day and do these videos on how now they're smuggling people across the northern border with Canada. First of all, where are these people coming from in the first place from Canada?
Guess I'll be at the Canadian border next week speaking over there. And let me tell you you'll be surprised who's coming to the southern border as soon as I tell you. Mexican nationals.
How?
Because Mexico, if you're a Mexican national, you will get turned back at the southern border right now, because that's the deal that the Biden administration made with Mexico. So the Mexicans said, oh, yeah, well, we're going to go through Canada. So you're going to see Mexican national cartel members and a lot of other people, by the way, a lot of SIAs as well, a lot of terrorist linked people coming through the Canadian border up in the Buffalo area and all these areas, which is wide open. But yes, Mexican and Central Americans coming through that Canadian border. And I'm going to go and talk about that next week up there.
So how are they getting there? Are Mexicans able to fly freely into Canada without any visas?
Good question. They get easy Canadian visas, Canadian passports, so that they don't have the same restrictions that they have to try to come in here. And so they fly in there. It's very easily transition for them from Mexico to do it. And the other ones have learned that if the southern border is going to be tied up for now, especially if President Trump comes in, you're going to see that northern border need a lot of attention, because they're going to try to divert themselves that way.
I always thought Justin Trudeau was a total idiot. It apparently is now the case. I mean, something that's very simple to stop. I've been to Brazil before. I was in Brazil for the Olympics many years ago. No visa was needed to get there. Now I just saw something recently that if you want to go to Brazil now as an American, you have to show them X amount of money in your bank account. Something as simple as that will weave out the people going up to Canada. Justin Trudeau, I mean, what a total idiot. And why Joe Biden or Kamala Harris is not saying to him, listen, let's stop this now before it gets out of control, because we know it's going to get out of control. Last question here, Victor. Has the cartel infiltrated that northern border yet?
Oh, yeah. They're present there. They're present up in New York. They're present up in the Seattle area. They're present everywhere in the U.S. That's not their common route and smuggling route. Obviously, we're talking about Arizona, Texas, and California, where the drugs. But the distribution from Canada to Europe is another. Remember, these cartels are present in 40 to 50 countries around around the world, especially the Sinaloa cartel. It's not just in the U.S. They happen to be headquartered in Mexico, but these people have personnel everywhere, especially in Europe and Spain and all these. They're trafficking in children and trafficking in humans and trafficking in drugs. And so the northern border is just another facilitator for them, to another option for them to get the drugs through to the other part of the world.
Unbelievable. Victor Avila, thank you for everything you do. Where can the audience follow any of your work on social media or anything you're working on right now or in the future?
Yeah, follow me on X at Victor Avila TX, and check out my PAC, borderpatriotpac.com. We're still fighting to get good people into Congress and really make a difference. We're coming down to the wire, so check out borderpatriotpac.com as well.
Should President Trump, and hopefully he wins on November 5th or November 6th or 7th, whenever they finish counting the votes, I think Victor Avila, among a few other people like Mark Morgan and Tom Homan, should be one of the first people he calls to get this damn border shut down, because our life depends on it. Victor Avila, thanks for everything you do, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. Please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. And please be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY. That's John Fawcett NY. And on Truth Social at John Fawcett. Shoot me a tweet. Let me know what you want to hear more of on the show, or less of, or guest ideas or topic ideas. Anything you guys want to get off your chest, shoot me a tweet. You could also email us at info@loudobbs.com. We want to hear from you. We'll see you back here tomorrow. May God bless you. May God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.